Hello and welcome to InfinEye Games. We are back at Paradise Hills, just using our public transport to get around the city. But just getting around the city is not enough. In today's episode, we will be adding our first specialized industry area. So, I wanted to do this a while ago. Like in the first episode, we made a farmland, but then that wasn't like a specialized industry. We just um, demarcated it as a farm-specific area. That's all. We didn't really put down the industry's DLC assets or create a specific industrial area for it. So I thought this would be a good time to do it. And I also realized that our city has started reaching its limit in terms of how many people can stay. I think I reached about a max of 11 odd thousand before, due to death waves, we started losing some people. So yeah, I mean, we can only have about 11,000, but I wanted to make sure that we have, enough jobs prepared for when we will expand our city, which we will do in the next episode. But yeah, let's talk about today's episode before we get into what we will do in the next one, right? So yeah, I decided to add an ore industry. Now, there was no specific reason to add ore, because if you saw me actually adding the actual ore natural resource onto the hills, the main reason why I did that, why I went with ore, was because I had actually used forestry and oil before in my previous cities, but I had never actually done this for ore. And turns out it's actually smaller than oil, and like definitely smaller than oil, but it's also not as varied as the forestry industry. So I was a little surprised, but it actually worked out well, because we didn't have a lot of real estate over on the hills to do that. The other reason why I decided to go with the hills rather than like a plain more accessible area was because I wanted to challenge myself. I think I had mentioned this in one of the episodes before, that I wanted to try building on the hillsides, because that's a challenging thing which I had never done before. So I thought, hey, let's do this with the ore industry, and it might be a good like starting point, and then we can maybe try like a hillside, sort of a remote village area in the town later on. But yeah, that's all in the future maybe. So the most important thing for specialized industries is making sure that there's enough area, because like ore isn't as big, but if you want to go for 5-star rating in your industrial area, then you would need a decent size to be able to have enough workers working inside of it. And also, if you're going for something like oil, you would actually need quite a lot of space, because they have like really big refineries and really big storage buildings and all of that. Even the specialized industries, the manufacturing industry that you put in for oil are actually quite big in size as compared to what ore has. So the first thing to keep in mind is the land, the real estate. The second thing, which I believe is a really, really important part in all of City Skylines, and especially for a specialized industry, are roads. You need to take care of traffic, because there would be just tons and tons of trucks and pickup vehicles and also even commercial vehicles, once you start actually producing them, so that'll some of it will get stored, some of them would actually get sold in your city, while the others would be exported out of it. So there are metrics that you can look into, but obviously this isn't like a industry's tutorial, so I haven't gone into it here. I've just placed all of the buildings that would require me to complete the chain of our industry. That's all I've done here. So it's really important to take care of traffic, because there would be a lot of vehicles uh, coming in and out of the industrial area. So it's important to keep it slightly disconnected from your main city, the residential areas, um, and also make sure that they have a dedicated road assigned to them. If not, then make sure that you have upgraded the right roads. And again, because it's City Skylines, you have make sure that you either have assigned a priority route for them, or you have assigned something that is shorter than the rest, and you have upgraded it well enough to handle the extra traffic that comes in. So I decided that I'll use the highway that actually comes in from the other side of the map, and that actually worked out perfectly, because this highway wasn't really getting used. I don't think a lot of people use this to come into our city, and this one actually is really close to the edge of the map. So when we actually start putting down the industries, based on the closest route pathfinding logic that the game has, and they would use this highway and take the off ramp that we just created. So it basically meant that I didn't have to worry about traffic. And also the road that you're currently seeing, the one that comes from the train station, and then after going through the roundabout, I just had left that empty. I did not really know what to do with it. I thought initially my idea was to take it to the back of the commercial district, so that it sort of feels like it's a road that has fallen into disrepair, that was supposed to join up into the ruined rail yard. But I thought this is a great place to actually connect our city to this area, because then once the industry is set up, people would actually use it to go to work, and there would be also like supply vehicles that will come from the industries to the commercial area. So that actually worked out really well for me. So as you can see right now, I'm just doing some terraforming to make sure the roads are sort of conforming to the terrain here. It's a little challenging, which is why I wanted to do it, and also it gives you an idea of why certain places look a certain way. Like you must have seen hilly roads that wind around. The reason for that is to keep the slopes to a minimum. And even though I do sometimes complain about the logic that is used for creating roads, when it comes to hills like this and slopes, the game actually helps you understand the logic a lot better, because you can't really have a really steep slope if you don't have anarchy on. And I had actually turned anarchy off just to make sure that I wasn't creating something that looked unnatural. So that helped me actually create the sort of snake-like winding paths. It's not perfect. I'm not a fan of how it ended up looking. It didn't look as perfect bends as I would have liked it to be. So moving on from the roads, now I'm starting to put down some of the actual buildings that the industry's DLC provides us, and I'm putting down the ore extractors. So there are two land ones. So there's a smaller one which had the semicircular what should I call it, ore deposit that it takes ores from. So in order for that to not look like it's out of place, I added some rocks around it and changed the surface to make it look more like a sandy area, because if you're mining, you're also creating dust of the same kind, and the rocks are being broken, and all of that would create some kind of a dust. So I basically sort of filled the area around it with sand so that it matches, how the ores actually look. And it also gives an idea of, okay, the dust or the broken down rocks are actually, getting sort of distributed in the area, and it looks more realistic in those terms. And then there was the other one, the bigger extractor, that was actually really simple to put down because it didn't really have much. I just added a few rocks around it so that it looks like it's actually extracting from something. That's what I'm doing at the moment. But yeah, you can go in and detail it as much as you want. I'm using vanilla rocks, and there are only a few rocks which are, actually dry rocks. Most of them have moss and even some trees around it, which makes it look a little bit out of place again. So I stuck to the one or two rocks that actually looked like they were dry. And again, I because you have to have collision off for this in order to be able to place the rocks inside of the boundaries. I forgot, and I actually kept the prop entry anarchy on, which wasn't really necessary. I could have just used the collision and done that, but I had left it on, so trees started creeping onto different places where I didn't want them. So I do go in and remove most of them, but I noticed while editing that one of the roads had one massive tree right in the middle of it. So I guess I'll go back and remove that while I'm recording the next episode. But yeah, I mean, this actually gave a really nice sort of a cliffside ore extraction industry here. It ended up looking really good. I had decently high expectations, but not too high, because it doesn't quite fit in because of how the terrain is and how green the areas around it are. But then adding the sand texture later on helps a little bit, and also adding the ore resource itself does desaturate the area a little bit. So I'm just detailing this area now, and as you can see, I'm removing the trees. But again, not sure why this is happening, but when I'm deleting trees using the Move It mod, it sort of recreates some of them. Like you see now, there are just so many trees on the middle of the road. I think I removed these, but then I missed one. So yeah, I'm just trying to make it look like there's a path that sort of goes into this ore area, so that trucks can go in and actually pick up the ores once they're extracted, which is not in the details of the actual asset. So I sort of did that. So you might be seeing, I'm just doing that right now. So I had placed in a couple more to increase the density of how many extractors we have, because the more extractors you have, the more raw materials you generate, and the more raw materials you generate, the more you are able to process it, and more you're able to distribute it. If you do the industries part well enough, they actually give you so much revenue. It's actually insane. Like, if you're ever struggling to make money, make sure that you handle the make one industry and handle it well, because that is surprisingly profitable. So yeah, I mean, like I said, not the focus of this video, so I didn't put too much effort into it. I just made sure that I had all the levels of the supply chain put in, so that it's a functional industry. The next step, which I feel like is, even though optional, a good idea to do, is to have a cargo, maybe shipping, or a cargo train, or maybe even a cargo airport put in, because again, there are going to be a lot of raw materials that are going to come out of these industries, and based on what you want to do, you might need a lot of them to be exported. So let's say you don't have enough area, or you don't want to cause traffic inside your cities by having them sold in your own commercial areas. You can have it set to export the raw materials outside of the city. Now that'll need either trucks or some form of a cargo transport for it to be moved outside of the city, right? So it's a good idea to have a maybe not dedicated in all cases, but if you have a big enough industry, it is always a good idea to have a dedicated cargo output or an input quite close to it, so that you you don't have to make your actual vehicles that are carrying the raw materials or the you know even the final materials too far away using your road system, which in turn causes a lot of traffic. So I decided to extend the railway line inside to make it look like it is a major sort of a cargo hub, and I added a cargo railway station here, which would basically help us export any excess ores that we have out of our city without really hampering our road systems. And because this is still outside of the residential area, whatever trucks and whatever vehicles actually access it will never reach our city, meaning that we have essentially added a massive industry to our city without it affecting our traffic whatsoever. I mean, I'm sure it would have an impact, but it wouldn't be as dramatic as it would have been had we not placed the cargo station here. But like I said, it's optional. It's not something that you have to do. But if you do it, it adds a peace of mind. At least for me, it's a real peace of mind thing to add a cargo hub somewhere close to it. Now, considering we don't have any like big enough rivers for a port, we have to use railway lines, which anyway work better, because even for a port you would need to either set up a cargo line that takes the cargo from the factory to the port, or you would have to use your road systems to actually make sure that all of the goods actually reach the port. So the honestly the easiest way to handle traffic for cargo is to have a rail line really close to it, because that is something that won't take up a lot of space. Like, I decided to use a huge area because I had it and I didn't plan on adding anything else in this area, so I could take advantage of that real estate. But if you don't have it, all you need is the railway station. That's it. I mean, a railway line that goes into the railway station, that is all you need to make sure that traffic is limited to a very specific area, and it actually can be controlled really well. So yeah, I mean, it's something that I definitely feel like I have to add in all of my cities, and I do, and they've really helped me take care of traffic. But yeah, so after adding this, it just I let it run. But because I wasn't gaining more people, like our population wasn't rising, the demand for it was pretty low. um, I made some changes which I will be going in and making in a bit. So I didn't realize that I hadn't put the railway line to be able to be used from both sides. So right now it's only coming in from the east side. That's the only place where a train can come and enter the cargo station. There's no way for a train coming from the west to be able to do that. So I do go in and make that change, but unfortunately after making that change, I just could not. I waited for about 15, maybe even 20 minutes, but it just did not spawn in a a train that was headed to our station. So I couldn't record a cinematic with it. So the train cinematic that you will see is actually is actually having a lot of bumps in the railway line, which I resolved later on while I was adding the other thing, while I was adding the east side entrance, sorry, the west side entrance. But yeah, the cinematic that you'll see of the train entering the station, there the railway line is a little bit bumpy, so apologies for that. Like I said, I waited for maybe 15 or 20 minutes, but the game just did not spawn a train that was going to the railway station. So I I just had to use the one that I already had. But yeah, that pretty much does it for today's video. um, Let me know, like, there are a few things, especially when you're handling something more detailed like the oil industry. There are a few things that you need to know and you need to be able to control. Like the first time I used industries, I was so confused. I just could not get it to work. I could not get it to become profitable. But there are a few things that you need to know for it to become profitable. And let me know if you want to see a tutorial of some sort. I could definitely do that. It's a really interesting part of the game. Definitely one that requires a little bit of planning. So I really enjoy it. But yeah, I'll leave this here. So hope you liked it. Let me know down in the comments below if you have any suggestions or any ideas. And next episode I'll probably be expanding our city, because it's high time we did that. But yeah, that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know by leaving a like down below, or if you had any suggestions, do leave them in the comments. But I'll leave it here. Enjoy the cinematics, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.